Welcome to Glazed Over, a podcast for contemporary ceramic studios. We're your hosts, Jessica Cowan
and Vanessa Steele. You're invited to join us in a creative conversation about life in the arts and entertainment industry.
Hey everybody, it's Jess, and we've got a split episode today about buying and selling your studio. So you're going to hear from me and Vanessa. I'm talking with Donna Bordeaux from PYOP Accounting, and she is talking to us about evaluating and selling your studio. The best part about my half of the episode is Donna is going to reveal to you a brand new calculator that she has created on her website on how you can evaluate your studio right now for how much it is worth. Plus, she's going to talk to you, of course, about how you can set yourself up for success so that when it is time to sell, you've got an exit plan. I had a great time with this conversation. I'm really excited for you to listen. So let's dive in.
Hey everyone, Des Toll here from Bisque Imports, and we've got good news for your kiln room. New kiln core stilts are here. They're strong, precision built, and made to deliver clean results every time. If you're glazing and firing, these are a must-have.
Feel like a juggler at your ceramic studio? Between classes, bookings, and admin tasks, those pins keep flying. Let Occasion help you put down the act and get back to creating. Visit occasion.act to discover your peace of mind.
If you own a fine arts studio, this event is built for you. The Contemporary Ceramic Studio Association's annual convention is happening August 27th through the 31st in Tampa, Florida, and it's packed with education, inspiration, and community. From business strategies and creative classes to an exhibit hall full of supplier partners, this is where studio owners come to learn and recharge. Don't miss out. Learn more today at ccsaonline.com.
First, introduce yourself. Let everyone know who you are, where you're from, and both on a personal level and on, from PYOP Accounting, and just a general introduction.
Got it. Well, I am Donna Bordeaux with PYOP Accounting. And our focus is on working with studio owners to help them have a great life, make some money, and have an enjoyable time. I am located physically in Lake Wiley, South Carolina, or I'm in Florida. I travel all over the U.S. in my RV. So
fun.
We take care of business wherever we are. And again, that goes along with that theory of helping people have a great life while they're business owners. We started working with CCSA 13 years ago. I had to look that up because it's been so long I couldn't remember exactly, but started out with one studio owner. We helped them. She shared the story on what was before Facebook chatter.
Right.
And then all of a sudden I magically started getting calls from people across the country and I didn't understand why. Found out it was because of CCSA. I immediately joined in, and we've been helping studio owners ever since.
Yeah, well, a lot of us didn't get into it to do accounting and the math and the business side of it all. So it's a blessing to have someone who knows the ins and outs of it that we can kind of run to and help us out there. So that's so exciting. We're excited to have you on today. Tell us a little bit about your background. Like, where did you grow up?
Sure. I grew up in the snow belt of Ohio, in northeastern Ohio, and I'm glad to be gone from there. I still have family there. I love to visit, but I do not want to be there during the winter. I would be fine if I never saw snow again. So
you're a sunshine girl.
Warmer. I moved down to Charlotte about 35 years ago now, and I've been there ever since. I grew up and I was one of those kids who loved calculators and cash registers as a kid. So I kind of naturally fell into the accounting side of things, and I started really focusing on it in high school. I became a CPA in 1991 now. So I'm feeling very dated when I say this.
Just means you're well experienced. You have the wealth of knowledge. Yes.
Well experienced. And I've been doing this ever since. Our firm is 30 years old this year, and my husband is also a CPA. So this is definitely a family-run business, just like many studios are.
Yeah, so you're one of us. You get it. You get what it takes. I love that.
Yes.
Okay, well, what's one of the bigger issues that you see when studio owners come to you? Like, what's the first cry that you hear?
Many of them express that same feeling of like, I love what I do, but I hate accounting and I don't like bookkeeping, or I don't have the time. I even have some people who say I like the financial end, but I just don't have the time to do it. And one of the things that I find is that most studio owners who are dealing with this as a business um, are missing out on a lot of opportunities because nobody ever took the time to dive in with them. Everybody just stops and thinks and kind of checks off the box to say that studio owners don't understand finances. Um, I don't go that route. So I let people tell me what their comfortability is with numbers and adjust to that. So the biggest thing that I find is many people come to me and say, like, I just keep doing the same thing over and over again, and I hope it's successful, and maybe it's been successful to date. But you eventually end up in kind of this rut, like, okay, now what? I did everything that's within my experience realm to further the business. What's my next path? What am I missing? And how do I take the next leap to really get this thing growing?
Yeah, and then once you've grown, eventually you've got to exit, right? Like there's a point in time where you're going to move on to the next path. We don't like to think about that. Like I'm 33 years old. I'm in the weeds of the fun part of all of it. And I still think that, oh, I've got 10, 15, 20, maybe even 30 more years in me, but there's still an end, where I'm going to at some point want to retire or live my life or just won't be able to do it. So at some point you've got to sell your studio. You've got to be set up for success in that with your accounting beforehand. And then when we get to that selling point. So talk to me a little bit about setting yourself up for success and then what's going to be important to that selling point.
Yes, I have been known to tell every business owner I've ever worked with that you should never start a business without an exit plan.
Mm-hmm.
Now, that means different things to different people. Many people think that means I have to jot down on a calendar, this is the date I'm going to sell,
Yeah.
and this is what it's going to be worth, and this is what I'm going to do in my next phase of life. That's not exactly what I mean. What I mean is that the preparation to sell your business is a huge investment in what that business's worth is. So there are a lot of things that from day one, studio owners need to be doing to make sure that that value is there when they choose to exit or are forced to exit or an opportunity presents itself. So there's obviously the thing people think about in exiting is when I'm ready to retire. All right. That's one, but I find that's not really the exit point for most people. There are a couple other things that happen. The biggest thing, life changes. Um, Things just happen to you in your life, whether it's you have children, you have aging parents, you have a move, you get married, your spouse has a different job and you need to move. There are a lot of things that happen in the real world that happen long before it's time to retire. There
Mm-hmm.
could be injury, disability, medical reasons that you need to leave. There also could be, and I've seen this happen in a lot of cases, opportunities that present themselves that you hadn't planned for. Somebody
Right.
walks into your studio one day and says, I love this business. Would you consider selling it? Many studio owners are hit with that question, and sometimes they just don't know how to respond. And I
Right.
want you to be prepared from day one to know how to respond to that question and be ready if an opportunity presents itself like that.
Okay, that sounds exciting. I don't know what I would do if someone walked in and went like, "Okay, I want to buy your studio." Like, I would be floored.
Right.
So
It's not
I
just a
don't know where to start.
compliment. And
Right.
obviously
Yeah.
the first step is that's a huge compliment to think somebody else thinks I've built something of value that they would like to have. But there's more to it than that. And that's what we're here to dive into is what happens in that realm if you want to sell your studio.
Right. Yeah. So what do you think step one would even be? Like, do you have an overall evaluation? Is there a checklist? Where do we start?
Yeah, there's lots of things, and I will tell you there is one thing looking backward that you can never be early on. And I might be a little biased on this, but having solid books and records that are ready to go at any moment in time is a crucial thing that studio owners can do to help further their value, make it bigger, and to be ready. In that situation where somebody pops in and presents an opportunity, you can't say, well, let me think about it and I'll get back to you in a few weeks about a value. The fire burns out. You've got to have in your head a knowledge of, I'm not saying you have to have all the terms of every deal ironed out in your head, but you need to know a range of what your business is worth. Whether it's a studio or any other kind of business, that's solid information that every business owner needs to have. So obviously, having solid books and records should happen all along the process and be ready to go if a sale or an idea of a sale comes up. But going back to your scenario, let's say that person arrived or the time arrived when you need to sell your studio. The biggest question, obviously, is how much is it worth? All right, let's talk about what the factors are that determine what it's worth. And I'll give you a little tool tip here at the end, but let's dive into the factors first. The biggest factors are, first, obviously, how much money do you make? What is the net cash flow that's available to the owner of the business? That's going to be the story that your financials will tell you. Secondly, we want to know how much owner involvement is required. So if you have the knowledge all in your head of how we open the doors each day, how we manage the inventory, how we tell customers to do what they're going to do, how we load the kiln, how we do everything for the business, and now I come in and I want to buy the business. Well, that's pretty hard if I have to pull everything out of you, right?
Yeah, because you're the business at that point. It's not the location, you know.
You have in that scenario, you've created yourself a job.
Right.
And you're not really operating this like a business. So to move that needle into a saleable business, you need processes, procedures, and documented ways that that information, knowledge can transfer to someone else. Now, I don't think that's just a requirement of selling. I think that's a requirement of operating. We never know what could happen. You could get hit by a bus today and somebody else needs to pick up the pieces and keep your business operating while you recuperate. So you need to have documented procedures. And this is so easy today. And I see people like they get that big burdensome headache when we talk about documenting, like I have to produce a manual and a full operating manual. That's the way the world used to work, okay? We don't have to make it that hard anymore. You got this phone. It is an amazing tool for you and for your staff. Let's use it that way, okay? So when you're loading the kiln, what would it take to turn on the video, record somebody loading the kiln and talking through why they're doing what they're doing? Do I put the big pieces on the bottom or the small pieces on the bottom? What do I do to stilt the stuff? What do I do to make sure it doesn't just explode? How's the procedure work to start it? What's the time frame? What do I do when I come back and check when it's cooling off? That stuff is so easy to document nowadays. So use your phone, record, create video libraries, and not only you, have your staff do it. This is an amazing training process that your staff can build all on their own so that you can train others to do the job too.
Yeah, they want to be on their phones all the time anyway. Like,
absolutely. Let's give them a chance and make it at least a productive experience rather than something you're mad about. Okay. So documenting the procedures and not just the technical aspects, but I'm talking when you're creating your marketing. Okay. Not only using your phone, but check out Loom, LOOM.com. Loom is a free tool that allows you to screen share and record what you're doing on your screen and share that so that you have documented procedures of How did you get your marketing list? How did you update the inventory? If you do that every 6 or 8 months, you're not going to remember because it's not a daily task. So record how you did that process and procedure. Have that library available for your staff and for somebody who might be buying your studio. That will increase your value phenomenally because you are now making your job replaceable by somebody else who could run the business.
Yeah,
Right?
absolutely.
And I can't stress that one enough. I've talked to studio owners and I've said, what you document this week? Even set a goal. Let's set a goal in your studio. Let's create 5 videos this week of things we do in an ongoing basis. Have a contest with your staff of documenting procedures. Whoever documents the most valuable procedures gets, I don't know, a pizza today, whatever it may be.
Right. Gift
But
card to your favorite
gamify
coffee
that
shop.
process of documenting things. That is going to increase your value. Okay? The third part of looking at the value is going to be on how much information you have. Not just procedures, but what do you have as far as client list and the marketing efforts, your social media efforts, Google reviews? All of those things are more intangible things. You can't reach out and touch them, but they have great
Mhm.
value. So if you're going to sell a studio, do you want to sell one that has one review from 5 years ago? Or do you want to sell one that has 50 reviews from this year and they're all phenomenal? And there's 5 bad reviews. I don't even care about those. We got to make sure you're showing you're a real studio. So the bad ones,
Right.
don't worry about that. Respond to them appropriately. We've all seen info about that, but show how much community is wrapped around your studio. That's also going to increase your value. Okay.
Hmm.
The other really cool part about this is that we have just created, and I'm just announcing it today, brand spanking new,
Ooh,
out of the
magic.
box,
Okay,
drum
drum
roll.
roll. Brrr.
We have a brand new studio valuation calculator I've rolled
Oh,
out
awesome.
on our website. This is free to everybody here, so spread the word. I'm going to tell you what the URL is here so you can write it down, and I'll mention it again later in case you missed it. PYOPaccounting.com. That's my website. /value dash calculator. So VALUE dash CALCULATOR. That is going to walk you through step by step the information that you can enter on the screen, and you can look and see what an estimate of your studio is right here and now.
I'm gonna do this immediately.
Yes.
Because I'm
Run
just
out
curious. I
there,
just want to
give
know.
that a shot. I'm
Do it.
excited to roll this out. It's been something I've been thinking about for a long while. And this kind of was the impetus to say, okay, like now's a good time. Let's roll this out.
Yeah, absolutely. So, oh, people are gonna love that. So I think what's so interesting is that the bigger pieces of selling your studio are really like the goodwill, the processes, the procedure. It's not the equipment, the bisque, I mean, those are parts of it, but that's not really what your brand is, what your studio is, where the meat of it all is. And I think sometimes people conflate the two, they think,
Yeah.
this is where all my money is, so this must be what it is, but it's a lot of the knowledge, it's the ins and the outs, the goodwill you've built in the community, your client list. It's a lot of intangibles, your social media, your followings, your accounts. Social media is a big part of it too, I think. Care to speak to that any? Are we translating accounts over to? Do you normally see people selling their social media accounts with their studios?
Yes, definitely. I think that's a huge asset that goes along with your business. If somebody's got to start off at square one, that's going to kind of be a detriment that's not going to help them catch up really easily. Even if they plan to do name changes or branding changes or location changes, even all of that is still a good transition because now you have an audience of people who are interested
Hmm.
in the topic alone, not just your studio versus somebody else's, but these are your people. You want those to transition to a new owner. And as a buyer, that's going to be really valuable because the buyer's biggest question is, can I keep this thing afloat? Will it make me money?
Right.
And that's a big coordination of efforts to be able to do that.
I think that's something we really don't think about when we talk about as studio owners, how much we hate social media and investing our time in social media. And like down the line, that might be the bigger value asset for it, even than the marketing right now. It's just the fact that a buyer is going to be looking for that. They need that audience. They see that as part of the package.
Absolutely. And one thing I'll add there, this has been kind of an ongoing thing, and I probably shouldn't have to say it anymore, but I see it still a lot. If your email is bobstudio@gmail.com, please, please, please learn. It's super easy. Use your domain as your email because when you sell your business, you're not going to want to give up your Gmail account. You can easily transfer a domain email or forward it to a different place. So you can still log into your Gmail account to manage things, but make sure when it says it's going out that it says it's going from yourstudio.com, not gmail.com or Yahoo or heaven forbid AOL or Hotmail. I don't want to offend anybody, but come on, folks, we got to move up.
How far back in the past are we? Are you asking Jeeves still?
It's now 2026. Okay. Yes.
Too funny.
Yes.
Okay. Anything else that you can think of that we're missing?
Yes,
You're like, yes, absolutely.
The biggest stumbling block to a sale
Okay.
that I want everybody to think about and prepare for. Can you guess what it is?
My heart breaking into a million pieces from
No,
leaving my
that's
studio.
actually
No,
easier than
okay.
you think.
Okay.
Okay. It is your lease.
Oh, yeah, I could see that. Yeah.
Yes. And let's talk about why. Obviously, if you own your own building, that's a whole different thing, but that's probably kind of the exception of the rule. And that's actually an easier situation to work. But when you have a lease, many times studio owners sign the lease. We're really excited. Yay! We stick that thing in a file somewhere and we never look at it again.
Mhm.
But if you're selling, you have to be able to transfer the lease.
Right.
Okay, so obviously, if your lease is up and you've switched over to a month to month, that may be a little bit easier, but it's not a guarantee yet. The problem is that most leases are going to include a personal guarantee of the owner. Okay, so if you personally guarantee that lease, that means that if somebody doesn't make the payment, whether it's you or some new buyer, doesn't make the payment, you're going to pay it every month until the lease is up. So if you got a 5-year lease and you're 1 year in, 4 years of a lease, that's a lot of money. So the real catch is that depending on who your landlord is, they may not let you off the hook. Okay.
Right.
Especially if you're dealing with a behemoth property management company, if you're in a big retail center. I will tell you, it is super rare that anybody's getting off the hook. You've got to wait for a lease renewal. They are not going to stop in the middle of the lease in most cases and renegotiate or substitute a new party. They may, at your best case, add that buyer onto the lease, but leave you on the hook.
Gross.
That's terrible. And that
Yeah, we
is
don't
the
want that.
biggest thing I see that tanks a sale. I had one of these last year, and I had one last year where it was an employee of the studio who wanted to buy the studio, and the prior owner had been there many, many years, and they would not allow it. They said, this person does not have the financial backing for us to substitute out the lease. We want you to stay on the lease for 5 more years. And in this case, her lease was getting ready to renew in a couple of months.
Wow.
They knew they had her.
Mm-hmm.
And they took advantage of that. And that sale did not happen because of the lease. So, planning the lease, um, again, if you're with a big property management company, make sure you're working with somebody who is reviewing that lease and negotiating for you. The heirs do a great job with that. I've worked with them in several cases on leases. They are CCSA members, so reach out to them and let them help you or get their advice. That lease needs to be negotiated from day one with this premise in mind about how you get off the hook, what happens if you want to sell, what happens if you want to close. All of those things are super important where most people are just so excited about getting the lease.
That makes sense. Okay, here's a hardball question for you. So say that you've got multiple locations. What are we, maybe one is under, like maybe they're under like a holding company, but one isn't. Like, I don't know, I'm trying to think of like an interesting scenario where like you're selling one, but the others are still under a company, but you're trying to sell one out of it. What would that look like?
Yeah, and this kind of goes back to the initial questions when somebody opens a second location. You have a choice there if you're using an LLC. Do I create a separate LLC for the second location or do I combine them? And I see this happen in both scenarios. There's pros and cons of both. If they're both under the same and you want to sell one location, it's a lot harder to show what the income and the expenses are to a buyer because now all of a sudden you've got to separate everything. And the problem is you have shared expenses like advertising and things like that, or maybe even your inventory you buy in bulk so you get a better deal, or supplies. So that can pose a question for a new potential buyer. If they're all in one entity. If they're in separate entities, that's probably better from a sales perspective. But then you've got a little shuffling that happens all throughout, or splitting. So you can either develop a process or procedure for how you want to do that, or sometimes there becomes a parent company up at the top that's in charge of the buying and the advertising and the payroll and the shared things, and that splits off into the two locations, if it's evenly or split in some sort of percentage. So it has pros and cons both ways, just depending on your strategy. I think the bigger, tougher part of that sale is proving to a new owner. I guess if they were further away, if these are like 30 minutes apart, if I'm the buyer, I'm questioning, is she just going to pull from my sales and pull my people over to her location because they still know her? That might destroy part of the business I'm buying. But let's say they're, in different cities, obviously that's going to be different. Also, if they're in different states, you definitely want separate LLCs for each entity, because of the state taxes and sales tax and all that good stuff.
Yeah,
So
things get muddled
I don't
up.
know if there's a magical answer, but the ultimate answer is pre-planning for how that's going to work and thinking about it from the evolution of that second location.
Yeah, because if the goal is you have to be able to show a buyer, like, this is what the expenses and the sales and stuff look like, that's what you need to be thinking about. And are you really going to want to separate all that out from your two locations if you put them into one? Probably not. And we have a lot of studio owners who do have two locations within their same state or area, a few hours apart or whatnot. And so I do kind of wanted to get that question answered for them too, of like, what's exit going to look like?
Honestly, I see
you kind of
about a
dived into it.
50-50 mix of how they're set up when there's multiple locations. So I don't think it's that this is the
there's
only
no
way
standard right now. Yeah.
It's just a matter of what works in the situation and kind of planning that out.
Yeah, well, that makes sense. All right, Donna. Well, we're coming up to the end of our half of the segment here today. So, any last words of wisdom for our friends listening?
My ultimate answer to selling, whether it's today or 10 years from now, is to be ready, do all your planning, have good solid set of books and records, And always have that back pocket number ready to go of what you think it would take for you to leave, even if that's a little on the high side because you're not rushed to
Yeah.
sell.
Yeah,
So,
because your heart's in
again, pop out to my
it.
calculator now. Try this out. I love to hear your feedback. Give me some comments. It'll also give you a little way to print that out and check it. And you can come back periodically and re enter your information and see how things are going. So, again, that's at pyopaccounting.com/value calculator.
Awesome. That's going to be so fun. And Donna, tell everybody how else they can get in contact with you if they want to learn more about your
Sure.
business and whatnot.
Yep. Best place is to hop out to our website, pyopaccounting.com again. Also, we have a humongous YouTube channel, and that's youtube.com/PYOP Accounting. That one, we've had videos on YouTube for, I think we have, I don't know, 500-600 videos out there. So there's a lot of information out there free of charge to anybody who wants to check it out. And lastly, one other little cool tool that we rolled out this year is our Genie. I have a Genie. It's an AI tool that knows
Tried to wiggle my nose, it
everything
didn't work.
I've ever done on YouTube and our blog. And you can go ask it questions just like you would ask me in person. It's the Donna Genie. So that's that one's calculatedmoves.com, which is our parent company, /Genie, GENIE.
Hey, that's awesome. So, okay, well, y'all check that out. Thank you so much for your time today, Donna. And
Thank
we are
you.
looking forward to getting this episode out.
Are you spending hours managing studio bookings and class registrations? Occasion helps ceramic studios save an average of 3 days a week in admin time. With clever workflows, instant confirmations, and seamless class management, you can focus on what matters, creating amazing experiences for your customers. Join successful studios like Clay Cafe Avalon, who've trusted Occasion since 2016. Visit occasion.app and schedule a demo today. Mention Glazed Over podcast for personalized setup support.
Hey, podcast friends. Let's talk about firing your bisque with confidence. Kiln core stilts are built for strength and stability with a solid refractory base that keeps your work secure. Each stilt features precision-cut metal pins with sharp pencil point tips, designed to leave the smallest, cleanest marks possible after firing. Kiln core stilts provide dependable support so your glazed pieces don't stick to the shelf. Rated up to cone 10, they're a dependable choice for everything from low fire glazing to high fire production work, giving you confidence every time you load the kiln.
Welcome to Glazed Over, a CCSA podcast. I'm your host, Vanessa Steele. Today I'm visiting with Sandy Kirkwood, the former owner of Clay Casa in Texas. Now, Sandy owns several studios, and she's going to dive deep into the process of selling a studio and everything you need to know. She gives a lot of details on pricing, kilns, equipment, tangible and intangible items. So if you own a studio or if you're thinking about buying a studio, this would be a great episode for you to listen to. And I hope you enjoyed as much as I did. Thank you. Oh, hello, Sandy. How are you?
Hi, I'm just fine, thanks. Good to see you, Vanessa.
Good to see you too. Where are you at right now? Are you in Arizona? Where are you at? No, you're in Texas.
San Antonio. Yeah.
Right. It's beautiful there. Are you guys getting this crazy weather, the pollen and the...
All of that. 98 degrees yesterday. Woke up to 38 degrees and it's going to be colder tomorrow. So it's just a little crazy.
It has been crazy. Well, I appreciate you joining me today. I wanted to talk a little bit about selling your studio. So give me a little bit of background. What was the name of your studio or studios?
I had one studio that I started here in San Antonio called Clay Casa in 2001. And then in 2013, I bought a studio in New Braunfels, a neighboring town. And I changed the name of it to Clay Casa New Braunfels at that time.
Oh, wow. And how long did you have the studios for?
I sold the first one, I believe it was 2020. It was a month before the pandemic.
Oh, lucky.
And how about timing for that? And then the second one, I really didn't intend to sell, but I did sell it in 2023.
Okay. All right. Well, what was the decision on wanting to sell the studios? Why did you decide to sell them?
So the first one, I was approaching 70 and having two studios, I was catching myself coming and going, and I'm kind of a workaholic anyway. And so I thought, well, I'll sell the larger studio, the San Antonio studio, and keep the one in New Braunfels and just have that so I can kind of step back a little bit, travel more, that kind of thing. And so that was why. Like I said, the second one I really hadn't planned to sell, and I had a former employee come to me, and she wanted it so badly,
Oh, wow.
and yeah, kind of twisted my arm.
Well, that was good.
Yeah, yeah,
And so the one you had planned to sell for a while, and the other one was kind of unexpectedly you wanted to sell, and is that what you would say?
yes, yes.
Okay. And for, I guess we'll talk about kind of both of them, but if one stands out more than the other, was there anything that was the most that you surprising about selling your studio or studios?
A couple of things. One, I was surprised at how many people wanted them. Um, especially after I sold the first one, a lot of people wanted the second one, but I had a
Okay.
number of people that were really interested. I didn't have to do that much, to get people interested in it. Um, Another thing I think that surprised me was that even though you might have what you think is a really clear lease in place where someone can
Hmm.
assume it, your landlord may not want to do that. So
Okay.
that was a surprise for me that caused a few little hiccups along the way.
Hmm. When you said people really wanted it, was it the people that bought the first studio wanted your second one, or was this customers, or
No,
did you have a broker?
customers, former employees, even someone real close to one of the landlords. I mean, it was a lot. It was a lot. Yeah, former employees, current employees.
And how did they know that you wanted to sell your studio? Did you put like a sign up in the store? Did you put it on a marketplace someplace?
The first one, when I decided I was going to sell it, I put a Facebook post up. Back then, it was a little bit more with Facebook than,
Okay.
Instagram or anything. And so I just put a story up. It was I think, on the anniversary of our opening of the studio. And I said that I had had the studio for, at that point, I don't know, 18, 19 years, whatever it was, and that
Hmm.
I'd really, really loved it, but it was time for me to step back and let someone else love it as much as I had.
Okay.
And I got a few, inquiries because of that. But then I called Dina for one, and I said,
Oh,
Dina,
perfect.
I know. I said, Dina, do you happen to know anybody who wants to buy a studio? Is there
Hmm.
anybody that's looking to open one? That kind of thing. I called my former consultant. I called a couple of the suppliers.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, in
and
case
that's what I
anybody
did.
doesn't know by now, I'm sure everybody knows Dina is the president of CCSA. So it's always nice to have a friend, that's the president of such a major association in your back pocket to call. That was convenient for you.
Yes, yes. And
Very
having
nice.
been on the board myself, I've been on
Hmm.
the board a number of years and was president myself, so that I felt a real strong kinship to Dina and to everybody there at
Sure.
the CCSA. So yeah,
And still do. You're still
and still do.
right with us. Yes. Yeah. I always tell people, CCSA is one of those all-encompassing things that you want to join in the beginning. It helps you through the process. But again, just like you, even at the end, when you're trying to sell, CCSA is still such a great resource
It
for you to
is.
get
It
information
is.
and network with people. Wonderful. All right, let's move on to some of the parts that I really don't understand. I can't kind of wrap my head around the tangible and intangible assets or intangible assets. So, whenever you're trying to decide what you're going to sell your studio for, how did you come up with those numbers? Like, how did you decide?
Okay. That was probably the hardest thing for me.
Okay.
Is you can figure out what the tangible assets are, and I have a list of those. In fact,
Yeah, those are
I
like
made a
the
booklet.
kilns, the
I don't know if you
wheels, the
can
things
see
you
it.
can
Yeah,
touch,
and I have
right?
my little
Oh,
list
okay.
that when I was going to sell my studio, I actually made up these little folders. When I
Art.
found out that people were wanting to know things, I was having to pull the same
Mhm.
information together. I think when I sold the second one, I pulled like 6 of those little booklets together. But you list all your tangible assets, and then the intangible things like the goodwill, like your policies and procedures that you've
Okay.
worked on for all the years. Because thinking back in 2001, I was speaking to Julia McNair about this not long ago. When we opened our studios, there weren't all these necessarily policies and procedures in place or any place to get them, that we were
Sure.
actually coming up with all those ourselves. So, having those in place and changing them over the years to get them workable,
Mhm.
that's one of those intangible things. The website, you're standing in the community, whatever that might be, and those were some of the things that were the intangibles. But it was still, to me, that was one of the most difficult things, was actually deciding what the price should be. At one point,
Okay.
I went to my accountant that I'd had for years and for the business, and I said, "Can you tell me how I can price this studio? What would you think?" And she tells me, "Well, the price is whatever someone's willing to pay." And I thought,
Okay.
really? That's not what I'm here for.
Right. That's not so
Help me
helpful.
out
Right.
here. You've seen my books, and I felt really unhappy with what she told me.
Okay.
And then going back to the CCSA again, I had gone to a workshop put on by Donna Bordeaux. Is that right?
Bordeaux. Yes, absolutely.
At the CCSA a convention one year, and I had a little booklet that she had passed out to us, and I started going through that and making notes. Different ways to sell your studio, because you can do it on with assets, or you can do it based on what your income was, that kind of thing. There's just different
Okay.
ways to price it. So
Mhm.
I just found that very, very difficult. I
Okay.
also went on, there was a website, I think it's still around, called Biz Buy Sell. And I went
Okay.
around and I looked at different kind of businesses, and there were
Mhm.
quite a few PYOPs on there at the time.
Wow.
And I looked at that to see if that could help me come up with a price. And so I finally came up with a price that I felt like I was happy with. And I made the decision that if I'm happy with the price, and if the buyer is happy with it, then that's good.
Okay.
So that's pretty much how I came up with it. The second one was easier since I'd gone through it the first time.
Sure. Sure. That makes sense.
Yeah,
Absolutely. And did you have to take an inventory of everything in your studio?
I did. I kept an inventory on POS, so that was really good. And
Okay.
then I was going to go through and make, because I had so many supplies. At
Yes.
some point in San Antonio, what I did was I just went through and listed the things as assets and an approximate number of color, because that changes
Yeah,
daily.
that's what I was going to say. Your inventory does change while you're
It does
having a
change.
running studio. Okay.
It does. And having bought one, where I think the person was ready to leave, and I bought a studio that didn't have much inventory, I was determined I was going to keep, a good amount of inventory on hand, just like I did daily.
Sure. Hmm.
And so that was part of the thing. And I think I put an X amount. I was going to have X amount at cost of inventory on hand. And then I
Okay.
did make a list of things, like there's a slab roller, there are, silk
Kilns, that type of
screens,
thing.
kilns, there's
Mhm.
X number of kilns. I had a list of all those, yes. And those were listed as assets. And like I said, I have a whole page of those right here, but
Yeah, you were very, very ready. Yeah. Did anything surprise you? Was there anything that you sold or that you put a price on that was higher than you expected or lower than you expected whenever you're talking
as
about
far
your
as
tangible things like your kilns and tables? And was there
no,
anything that surprised you?
it really wasn't, because I tried to value them at what I thought the fair market value is. But
Hmm.
there again, my studio had been open since 2001. I had
Hmm.
one kiln that was pretty new, because I actually won it at a convention. I had another one
Nice.
that or a couple of them that I had bought over the years, and then one that I started out with. So they were varying ages. But so that to me was also a little difficult, was trying to find out what the current value of what it
Sure.
was, of all the
Sure.
supplies, which is what they call FFE, fixtures, furniture, and equipment. So that was one of the
Okay.
things that I tried to come up with first, was the approximate value of that.
FFE, that's a good thing to know. I didn't even know what that
Yeah.
stood for.
And
FFE.
then
All right.
also, how much would it cost someone if they were starting new
Sure.
to buy all those things? Because it would be
Hmm.
significantly more.
Absolutely. And then as far as the intangible things, you had Facebook then. Did you have Instagram or TikTok in the 2020?
No, I had Instagram.
Hmm.
I thought was a pretty good website.
Hmm.
Another thing that they talk about is an intangible is goodwill. Your name in the community, that
Your
kind of thing. And
reputation,
and
sure.
again,
Hmm.
that is as a little bit of a hard thing to again put a number on, but it's very important because how many people know you versus the other studios maybe in your town and that kind of thing. So we were pretty well known after a period of time. I couldn't go anywhere to the dentist anywhere where someone didn't know my studio.
Okay. That's nice. That's wonderful.
Yeah.
I love that. All right, let's talk about the financial considerations. What financial obligations did you disclose to your buyers? Did you have anything that you specifically needed to disclose to them?
One thing first, I guess I need to tell you is I believe in being debt free, whether it be in my life or in my business. And I found that was one thing that surprised people when they were coming to look at buying my studio, is that we were debt free, because they do want to know if you have any long-term contracts, if you have any liens or anything like that. When I was going to disclose, I did get my attorney friend to write up a non-disclosure non-compete for me before I disclosed the numbers, and those were numbers that I put in. These little folders that I made, and I put in those a balance sheet, profit and loss, the list of tangibles and intangibles. If they were very serious and we got into further negotiations, then in this particular one, I had to enclose tax returns, my personal tax return comparisons for the last 3 years. And of course, whiting out any Social Security or EIN numbers. Be careful about any of those kinds of things. But
absolutely.
And then I had, like I said, the balance sheets. Let's see. Those were the main things. But I had them, by the quarter, by the year, and then also to be sure that you knew that, let's say that you had a significant loss of revenue at any one month or any year or something like that, then you could explain why. So you need to be able to know why those things happen, because we know that they do happen.
Absolutely, especially with the pandemic. I'm sure a lot of us that were in business took a little bit of a loss for a month or two. Yeah, absolutely.
Exactly. So in that case, if I had a copy of let's say the profit and loss, I would have just had that written out to the side, that this is why this occurred.
And how far back were they interested in knowing? Like, how far back did you have to give your financials? 3 years, or
for the
like the profit and loss?
Yeah, profit and loss. I think those were a year, but some of them wanted to know also by quarter. Tax returns 3 years prior. But the other ones, I think they were looking at a year to 2 years. And different people will request different things, So just be able to get that. And I think that was the beauty of having a good POS system, that you can pull those kinds of things up, and you're also on your QuickBooks or whatever software you use.
Now, you mentioned that a lot of people were interested, so I'm guessing you could be a little more selective of your buyer. What was the ideal buyer that you were looking for?
On the second one, I think that she just convinced me really that she wanted it so badly. She had worked for me a long time.
She had experience working for you. Okay.
Yes. And I did want somebody who had some sort of business experience, and the PYOP experience would have, of course, just been that much better, because you and I both know it's very labor intensive.
Yes.
And it's the best thing I've ever done, but it is very labor intensive, and getting into it, you don't know that. And so I think that someone who knows the business, they know what's involved.
And did you need to make sure that the buyer's capacity to purchase it was something important to you? Did you get to see any of their financials whenever you were negotiating?
A little bit, yes. And I think that was very important. And since I knew buyers for both the studios, I felt more comfortable with that.
Okay.
Had I not, I would have asked for their financials just like they asked for mine, because I would have wanted to know that they were debt free and that they had the ability to, run the business.
Now, you said that you had them sign a non-compete or non-disclosure whenever they were looking at your financials. Did you also have a non-compete in your sales agreement with them? Like they couldn't open another studio, or no?
No, they, at least one of them had that with me. They were more concerned that I was going to do that,
Okay.
So I was selling one I didn't care if they opened more, you know.
Okay.
In fact, I actually gave information to them on where I would open it, and I decided I would open another one, you know. So yeah.
Okay. Did those studio buyers, did they buy the name as well, or did they change the name?
Um, both of them bought the name. I really thought one of them was going to change it, and it didn't
Mhm.
happen. So I don't know if that's caused any issues between the two, but yeah, in hindsight, I probably would have done that a little bit differently. If you
Okay.
have two studios,
Okay.
if you have one, it wouldn't matter. If you're keeping one,
Sure.
it might. Yeah.
Sure. Okay. So then you have sold the studio, or you're planning to sell the studio. Everything's in writing. How long did you stay involved in the studio after it was sold? Did you help? Did they come in beforehand and train to see how it works, or did you stay after the sale? How did that work?
No, on the one studio, of course, it was buyers who had their own studios. So it was
Okay.
basically, here's the key. See ya.
Bye.
I mean, of
I'll
course,
sell
you're
you
always right,
stuff.
but I mean, of course, you're always there if they have questions. You're always happy. But
Sure.
these were people who knew what they were doing. So I mean,
Okay.
you know, unless they had just a specific question, they didn't need
Hmm.
my help.
Okay.
The other studio owner, it was pretty much the same thing. Her family owns a business.
Okay.
I
And she
was
had
there to
worked for
answer
you.
questions, and I also, one of the things that I did for her was I came up with a calendar that listed everything every month of when it was due. Like we have sales tax here in Texas, and so
Okay.
your sales tax is due this date, and a little bit of information, and
Oh,
then
that like an
and
operations
for
manual.
yes, and for let's say it's coming up to Valentine's Day, so in in January you may want to make sure you still have plenty of red color,
Okay.
and
Great.
in February make sure you're getting green, that those kinds of things. I
Sure.
Those were some of the things that I did. Just everything that I could think of, I wrote
Smart.
down on these calendars.
I love that. That's smart. And lucky for that person that bought it. That was really nice of you.
And
Yeah.
yeah, and she reached out a few times, and I showed her a little bit more about glazing because she never did do that when she worked in the
Hmm.
studio, but it was not an issue for her. She's very sharp.
Okay.
Yeah.
How about staffing? What did you do with your employees during the transition? Did some of them stay on and get hired with the new owners?
That's one thing I found out about business, any kind of business, that often changes when a manager changes or an owner changes, the staff changes. It invariably, that's what happens.
Sure.
And I told my staff in San Antonio, and it was suggested to me because I was worried, like, oh my goodness, what are they going to start saying to customers? And someone suggested, well, give them business cards, and you can hand out a business card. They can hand out the business card if you're interested. I don't know anything about it, but here's your business card. You can talk to Sandy,
Okay.
that kind of thing. So
So
they
you
knew
wanted them to defer to you as the owner. You wanted them to,
exactly,
okay. Okay.
exactly, and so they knew. They didn't know exactly when it was taking place, but they knew that that was
Okay.
in my plans. In fact, two of the employees at the time were also considering buying it, but that fell through.
Okay.
Um, so that went well. The second studio, I didn't tell anybody,
Okay.
and it didn't really go well.
Oh, okay.
When the night that I sold it, that I told
Hmm.
everybody, the
Hmm.
manager was very, very upset with me, and
Okay.
I don't know if I could have handled it any differently. I could
Mhm.
have. She may have quit earlier. I don't really know. And
Right.
so that's a real hard thing. You know your staff, um,
Sure.
and you just have to do what's best for you. I don't know because I handle both of them differently,
Uh-huh.
and so I don't know.
And would you say one was better than the other, one way that you handled it as opposed to the other way?
Uh, I think had I told the staff at the second studio earlier, I think some of them would have quit
Okay.
earlier.
Yeah.
So
So
you've
maybe you
got
did it
that's what
smartly.
I was trying to balance. Are they going to quit now? Are they going? You
Hmm.
don't know, and
Right.
some of them stayed, some of them didn't.
Hmm.
But you know, a
It
lot of
is what it
times when
is.
staff leaves, you get a lot of better staff. You just never know.
Absolutely. Absolutely. How about customers? Did you let your customers know that you were leaving, introduce them to the new owners?
A few of them, yes. but I also felt like that was something that the new owner would want to do.
Okay.
They might want to introduce themselves to the community. And I thought it was best that they do it their way.
Okay. Yeah, that's nice. That's nice. All right, let's talk about market conditions. Do you think the PYOP studio market is strong right now?
It sure looks to be. I talk to friends, and I love all the new trends. Like I see you with your clay, and I'm loving it. In fact, I've been taking clay classes, throwing classes
I
myself,
know.
and I would have jumped all over that. I just see so much potential and so many good things, and I hear a lot of good things from people about how PYOP is going.
I meant to ask you, what type of things did you offer in your studio? Did you have clay? Did you have fused glass? What did your studios have? What were the things that you offered?
In the San Antonio studio, I offered PYOP with the stoneware that, and also glass fusing, which was my favorite, and mosaics, and then some clay just for workshops. Over the years, we did some canvas painting, but that kind of went to the wayside there for a while too. So the new owners weren't going to do glass fusing, and I thought I was going to do it in New Braunfels, but I just really didn't have room for it. So the New Braunfels studio, we did just low fire, and we did some clay workshops, and that was it.
Okay. Nice, nice. And then do you think that also helped with the pricing of it, all the different mediums that you offered? Did that make a difference in the value of your studios that you sold? Because one had different mediums than the other one, correct?
Yeah, but I don't really know for me that mattered a whole lot, because the new owners had very specific things that they wanted to do. And glass fusing wasn't involved in it, and mosaics wasn't including in it. So it kind of depends. But I would say for studios now that had the clay offerings, that could be a really something really good for a buyer.
Yeah. And add to your tangible inventory, the wheels or the clay tables.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Okay, let's talk about the timeline. How long did the process actually take from start to finish? Let's talk about the San Antonio one.
It took just a little bit longer than we had anticipated, partly because I had another set of employees that were going to buy it, a couple of employees, and they didn't, so that took a little bit longer. But then also we had a few hiccups with the landlord. And but it still went, I would say, maybe a month.
Oh, wow. That's fast.
I should have looked that up, because I can't really remember, but it went really pretty quickly. But I think the only hiccup we really had was, that's what I said earlier, is that
the lease.
You may have a lease that says that your lease is assumable as is. And I had a really good lease written up, and I'd use Rich Aries company and to do that with me. And of course, the new buyers wanted that lease because it was a good lease. And then the landlord said, no, we want a new lease. And they weren't going to include some of those things. So it took some negotiation, heavy duty negotiations. That's what made it take a little bit longer, but it still wasn't long.
Yeah.
The second one, it also didn't take long, except that we did a handshake deal on it, because she was going to buy it several months later. And so once that was done, when we had a date established and we just walked in and did it, all the paperwork was ready. So,
nice. Yeah. Okay. Would you recommend studio owners plan their exit strategy in advance? Do you think they should kind of have a plan?
I think the day you open your studio, you should also have an exit plan. Absolutely.
Oh,
because, you should always think about those kinds of things, because not to think negatively, not if this doesn't work, but you need to have a plan, which for me meant that you want to make sure that your books are always nice and clean and, and accurate. I think that's real important, that your numbers are accurate. And I think if you do those kinds of things, then you can, like I said, pull up things on your POS system or on your financial software. So just make sure that those things are accurate. Don't commingle your personal and your business expenses. Keep it nice and clean.
Yes. Yeah. Keep it clean.
Keep it
Keep it clean,
clean.
Sandy says.
That's right.
Let's talk about the emotional side of selling your business. What was the hardest part about selling it?
I really thought that in selling my first studio, since that was my baby, I mean, I plastered the walls in that studio. I put up the code base in that studio. I
Oh,
went in
wow.
and painted it while I was still teaching marketing and entrepreneurship. So I do
Wow.
that at night. And I thought, especially when the employees came over and hugged me and everything, I thought, I'm going to just cry
Wow.
all the way home. And let me tell you, when that check gets to in your hand or into your bank, however it works, it's a whole different feeling. It's like, okay, I'm good.
Hey. Yeah. Hmm.
I'm good.
Yeah.
And
That's
I also
nice.
had that second studio, that
That's
I
true to
was,
worry about.
yeah. So that was also help because you don't
Okay.
just stop doing something for almost 20 years and not really
Sure.
miss it. Yeah.
Sure. And then when you sold your second one and you were completely out of the PYOP business, was that
That
hard?
was that was harder because I've been really lucky. I mean, that was hard just because of the circumstances. And then also I was retiring and
Okay.
I thought, but like I said, I'm pretty lucky. I'm very lucky because I have been doing some things with Mako for a while. I use them as my
Absolutely.
as
Hmm.
my glaze company
Yes.
for 20 years, over 20
Mhm.
years. And I was doing some things like the Texas Art Educators conferences
Absolutely.
with them and those kinds of things. And so I was able to continue doing that. I'm still doing it. And so I
Absolutely.
still get to see all you lovely people like at convention
Hmm.
and hug your necks and
So you
keep
almost,
up with
it's
some
just like
things.
putting on a new hat. You just put a new hat on,
Yes, that's
still in the
right. So
industry, but just
that's
wearing
been
a
kind of
different hat.
fun. I mean, that's been, and then the other thing was a month after we sold the New Braunfels studio, it wasn't even a month. It was probably 2 or 3 weeks. We bought a new house. We hadn't
Wow.
even, yeah, we hadn't even intended to do that. So we spent,
Okay.
a month or so moving in the house and then another
Mhm.
couple of months fixing the old house up to get it ready to sell. So that took about 5 months in there that I was dealing with that. So I had a
A
lot of
new kind of busy.
distractions. Yeah.
Sure. Just a new busy somewhere else.
Yes. And plus, I would say when the word was out that I was selling a studio, I got a call from Cammie Hatley. If you know her, she used to be the president of CCSA, had a studio in Memphis, if I remember right. And she called
Yeah.
me and she said, Sandy, I know you, and you better find something else to do
Be busy.
because, yeah, you need to be busy.
Hmm.
And she's right.
Yeah. It's crazy how busy we are. We don't even realize it when you have the
That's
studios
right.
and then all of a sudden. Yeah, but I know you're busy. You're still busy.
I am busy.
Yes, you are. All right, let's talk real quick about attorneys and accountants. What role did your lawyer or accountant play in this process?
Um, Not as much as I'd hoped. Like I said, I'd hope my
Okay.
attorney could sit down with me and go through things. I did have an accountant friend who's all of her kids had worked for me, and she was doing a few things for me for a while. And so I sat down with her over coffee one day, and I said, "What do you think?" And she went through my numbers with me as far as
Okay.
selling and what she thought was good. My attorney was really good because they came up with, of course, the non-disclosure and
Hmm.
then the bill of sale, for the
Okay.
studio. So that was
Hmm.
a good thing. And
All
again,
right.
having her do the first one, it was real easy to come in and get the second one, the same paperwork.
Hmm. So you handled the negotiations yourself, but just had it kind of checked with your accountant and checked with your attorney just to make sure you're all on board.
Yes, yes.
Okay. And during the negotiation process, was there like a low number, or did you have a firm, this is what I'm selling it for, and this is non-negotiable?
One of them, I had a selling price, and since someone else had said they wanted it, the buyer came in and said, "I'll pay X amount over that price."
Oh,
And on
okay.
the other one, I just said, "This is what I'm selling it for."
Okay.
And they said, "Okay," because they want. So it just kind of depends.
Okay.
If you have a number of buyers, I probably could have gotten in a buying war with at least one of them, but
Mhm.
I had chosen my buyer.
Okay. Good. Good. And you had mentioned earlier that whenever you start your studio business, you should start thinking about selling it. What do you think everybody listening today, including myself, I own a PYOP studio. What do you think I need to start doing to prepare to sell my studio?
Keep everything nice and clean in your studio.
Keep it clean.
And also keep your numbers clean and your
Mm-hmm.
financials. Keep everything up to date. And I would say those are really, really important. We had written policies and procedures. They may or may not be used by the buyer because you might sell to someone who has their own studio that has their own policies and procedures and ways of doing things. But you may not. You may be having someone who's new at those kinds of things. So have all those kinds of things written down so they can see that they've got a business that they can walk in and purchase and have something to go with right then, rather than a new one. And then just a little piece of advice is that you're going to hear people have sold theirs for more or less than you, but whatever price you get, if you're happy with that and they're happy with that, just be happy with it. I mean, you could always get more. You could, you could always get less. I've seen people who sold their studios and then have those studios go out of business within a year. That would make me sad.
Yeah. And
sad, I'd rather sell it for a price that was good. Everybody thinks that they're worth a whole lot more maybe than they are because there are businesses, but sell it for a fair price, but sell it to someone who you think is really going to continue succeed the business. Yeah. Because I've seen too many that have closed.
Mm-hmm. Have you been to either one of your studios since you sold them?
I have. Not very often because I just don't. They're not as close to, anymore. But I've been to both of them a couple of times. Yeah.
Okay.
And they look lovely.
I love that. That's great.
And they're both doing really well, which makes me very happy. And it makes them happy.
You did it well. You left them and we left them prepared.
Right.
Feel like a juggler at your ceramic studio? Between classes, bookings, and admin tasks, those pins keep flying. Let Occasion help you put down the act and get back to creating. Visit occasion.act to discover your peace of mind.
Thanks for listening. I'm Des Toll from Biscuit Imports. And if you want dependable support and clean firing results, Kiln Core stilts are ready to go to work for you. Available now at biscuitimports.com. Stock up today and fire with confidence.
Running a fire art studio is creative, rewarding, and a lot of work. That's why studio owners across the world turn to the Contemporary Ceramic Studio Association. As a CCSA member, you get access to industry education, step-by-step guides, marketing tools, supplier discounts, and real data to help you make smarter business decisions. You'll join a supportive community of studio owners, connect inside our private Facebook group, and get your studio listed on our online locator so customers can find you. Whether you offer paint your own pottery, clay, wheels, or glass fusion, CCSA is here to help your studio thrive. Learn more and join today at ccsaonline.com.
Anything else you want to add, Sandy, before we close this?
Oh, I'm sure I had some kind of things, but I don't even remember what they were. But like I said, the main thing is just don't mingle your personal and your business expenses. At some point, you're going to want to have all your numbers there for someone to see how well you're doing. And hopefully you'll get top dollar for it.
Yep, absolutely. Well, thanks. It's always so fun to talk to you. I look forward to seeing you at convention. I know you got a big trip coming up in Vienna, but I look forward to seeing you in Tampa at the convention. And I really appreciate you taking the time to chat with me today.
Thank you, Vanessa.
Glazed Over is brought to you by the CCSA, the Contemporary Ceramic Studios Association. Thank you to our moderators, Jessica Cowan and Vanessa Steele. Editing by Scott Lester. Executive production by Vicki DeWorth. Learn more about becoming a member at ccsaonline.com.